back to the program. Standing by on the Homesteader Store hotline. Homesteader Store, good people with the right stuff. Kubota LS Tractor and Cub Cadet is Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty attorney Lucas Vebber to talk about the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty demand that the manifesto, and Lucas, correct me if it's not just the manifesto, be released to the public. I have seen some headlines saying, oh, we're going to do it, but we have yet to see now, quite a ways past the attack on the Christian school in Nashville, anything that looks even close to information about her motivations. So it's good to have you. Where does it stand now that you're seeing headlines that say, oh, we're going to release it? Are you still going to pursue the information?
Yeah. So first of all, great to be on the program. Thank you for having me. The latest update is, we've seen law enforcement sources in Nashville and Tennessee saying they are reviewing the records to release. We don't know exactly what that means. The manifesto itself is really a series of documents. It's notes, journal entries, there's plans, letters, writings, other documents that law enforcement has mentioned exist. And they've been kind of referring to all of those collectively as the manifesto. So we don't know what we're going to get or if it's complete or not. We are certainly committed to ensuring that the public has access to all of this stuff when it comes out. I mean, this was a heinous and horrible crime that was committed. Policymakers are looking for solutions. People are wondering how this can happen. Having this kind of information helps them piece that together, frankly, and helps understand, if you can understand the mind of this type of heinous criminal and how we might be able to prevent it in the future.
Why is the FBI in control of this?
My understanding is that local law enforcement turned those documents over to the FBI. So our clients submitted a Freedom of Information Act request, which is the federal version of the public records law. Most people are familiar with it. To the FBI. The FBI denied their request. They said they were law enforcement records. They cited a kind of broad carve-out under the FOIA for law enforcement records that could be related to essentially to the enforcement action. Obviously, the perpetrator in question here, that heinous criminal, is dead. So there is no crime that's going to be charged there. And in the past, the FBI has released these types of documents pretty quickly. So there is a groundswell, I think, of building calls. People are making calls for these documents to be released, which could be why law enforcement feels compelled to make the statement that they're looking at it and they're hoping to do it. But again, we don't know exactly when they're going to release everything. And, we plan to press forward and ensure that the public can view these documents.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about journal entries, cartoons, comics she wrote, pictures she drew, scraps of notes, messages on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, we're talking about not just a suicide note, which is also left behind. They say it's too dangerous for us. It's too dangerous. A blueprint for disaster, I think, is what I heard somebody say about it. I think the person who said about it had no access to the information in the first place, but just said it's a blueprint for disaster. The public can't be trusted with this. That's kind of what they're relying on right now.
It has been. And I think, in large part, that's actually increased interest in it. I mean, when government tells you that something is just, you can't have it, the public can't be trusted with it. That's frankly ridiculous. It's why our public records laws exist. And it's why we're interested in this case. I mean, this is a part of our Preserving Democracy project. This is a free press case. We're trying to ensure that the press has access to these records so that they can write about it, so the public at large. And as I said, for policymakers who are, if there are solutions out there, if there are things that could be done, you need to understand why this crime was committed in the first place. And it can go a long way to reviewing all of these documents.
How do we know what's redacted? Because what you're gonna get back, I think you're gonna win because she's dead. There isn't a criminal case to investigate. She was a lone gunman.
Correct.
Unless there's some kind of network of trans terrorists out there that the FBI has investigated, don't make me laugh. They're too busy hunting down Catholics at Latin Mass. So they're not investigating some trans Tifa organization. So, when the redactions come, how do you know if the redaction was appropriate or not? How do you know if you even get the information that you're asking for? Because if it's redacted, it could just mean we're not even sending you the information.
Yeah, there are, first of all, nobody's above the law, not even the FBI, of course, right? So they have to comply with federal FOIA, and federal law dictates what could be redacted, types of stuff. So I do expect, I don't know for sure, but I expect whatever we get probably will have some redactions in it. We'll certainly review all those and try to look at them in context and see what kind of stuff was redacted and if it was appropriate, or if, there's any indication that it may not have been appropriate. And those are all things that can be addressed in civil court.
Can they be ascertained? Can they be ascertained, though? Can you see a redacted material and say that was clearly an inappropriate redaction? Because redactions to me, addresses, personal names, maybe social security numbers, phone numbers, things like that. But how can you ascertain? Are they required to just provide a description of what was redacted?
No, not exactly. And, it's a lot of it. You'd have to look at it in context in which it's used. In some cases, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but in some cases, a judge can review the original document, what they call in-camera review, where the judge can just look at it himself and make a determination, or herself, and just make a determination if the redaction was appropriate or not, before deciding on it. So there are legal ways that stuff could come out if there are redactions, but again, we haven't even seen what documents they're releasing yet, much less the redactions themselves. But hopefully, we do get to see those soon. And as I said, nobody's above the law, and even the FBI here. And it's unfortunate that we've had to take it this far already. So,
well, yeah. Because it's not like we're still looking for someone, or we're looking for a network, or there was some kind of collusion going on. Everything that's happened is going to happen related to this case. There's going to be no court case. Nobody's being charged because everybody involved is dead. So I guess I'm trying to figure this out. It seems to me that that there's politics involved in the slow walking of this. And if there are substantial redactions, it is politics that drives these redactions, because the perpetrator for the last month, the murderer has been recast as some kind of a victim of society. She has been recast. She's been recast by the Biden administration. She's been recast by the media. She's been recast by the Democrats in the Tennessee legislature. It's stunning to me. So to not have the information, forgive me. I'm saying political motive all the way.
Yeah, and I think once we have a chance to see it all, we'll be able to, all of those documents will certainly be available for the public, and it'll all come to light in the end, hopefully, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
How fast do these things turn around when you file these kinds of claims? And I should throw out love for the Star News Network and Matt Kittle, because it's a Star News Network that you are representing.
Yeah, absolutely. Behind every one of these cases, there's certainly somebody who's brave enough to put their name on it and to stand up and do what's right. And Star News Network and Matt are doing that here. And as far as timing on this, the federal process is a little different than the state process. You have to file what's called an administrative appeal with the agency first, and that can take about 3 weeks, I think they have, to decide on it before you can go to court. So, I don't know how quickly they may or may not release everything here, but that's roughly the timeline that we're looking at before kind of the next step could happen in this action that we're taking.
Lucas Vebber, thank you very much, and we'll keep following along. But I'm hoping 6 months, a year does not go by, and you have to file continual aggressive demands for access to what is, by definition, public information. Thanks very much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Vicki. Have a great weekend.
Great to have you in Liberty.